watching Let's Talk Parenting. I'm Veronica Kasenga-Frufro. I'm so excited that you're watching this, and I'm praying that as you watch this, you are going to learn something. One thing that you can apply on a daily basis that will make a significant difference to you and your family. Let me tell you a real funny story real quick. It's about a boy named Kevin. Kevin went into the kitchen where his father was and asked him, Dad, with excitement, how did the First War begin? His dad, really happy he was asked this question, turned to his son and said, well, take the First World War. That began when Germany invaded Belgium. His wife, who walked in on their conversation, interrupted and said, no, tell the boy the truth. It began when the first man was murdered. The dad, not being happy with the interruption, huffed up and turned and said to his wife, are you telling the story or am I? The wife, not being happy as well, turned to walk out of the kitchen. She was so upset that when she walked out, she slammed the door really hard that the plates, they began to rattle. Their plates began to rattle. Boy, she must have slammed that door really hard. But the father turned to continue the story with the son, but the son interrupted and said, don't worry, Dad, I know exactly how war began. I don't know exactly how true this story is, but it does make me think about, what influences our children's behavior, which is what I want to share with us today. I want to talk about what are some of the things that influences the way that our children behave. Have you ever been in a situation whereby your children weren't listening, they ran around misbehaving, and you told them off, but despite doing that, they still carried on anyway? Because I definitely have. And I found myself telling them off, and they're still doing it. So I'm asking myself, what is wrong with you? And then I'm like thinking, is it you or is it me? So that's what I want to talk to us about today. What is the reason that our children sometimes behave, sometimes they don't? What's the reason why sometimes they bend the rules a little bit? Well, you'll be pleased to know it's not all you. No. There are so many reasons why our children listen and sometimes don't and bend the rules. And I'm going to share with you what some of those reasons are. So I've compiled a list of some of the factors that influences the way that our children behave. And some of those things are like modeling. I've shared previously that modeling is one of the most powerful ways that you can influence a child's behavior. If it's good enough for you, then it's good enough for your child. So the way we behave influences them massively. There's family, so other family members, grandparents, siblings. There is parenting style. So the style that we choose to parent our children has a massive influence on the way they behave. We have your name. Can you imagine even the name your parents chose to give you influences the way that children behave? We have birth order. Have you ever heard of the middle child syndrome? Yeah, it exists. So the order that you're born, whether you're first, middle, or last, all of that has an influence on the way that you behave. Mental health, the environment, we got developmental stages, so how old they are, hormones, all of these things influences the way that our children behave. We've got culture, that's a massive one which I'm going to talk about next week. Discrimination, trauma. There is traumatic experiences that happens to a child when they're young. It can really have a massive impact on the way that they behave. There are so many different reasons, and I'm pretty sure that I haven't listed all of them. So if you can think of any, I will be glad to know about it. So please just comment down below some of the other reasons that you think influences the way that our children behave. Today, I just want to focus on family and parenting style. So let me expand a little bit. When we talk about family, family can influence us both in a positive way and in a negative way. So grandparents, sometimes grandparents can interfere in the way that you're parenting your children. Siblings, siblings who fight or can't stand each other, or their best friends, all of that can have an influence the way that our children behave. And I will talk about sibling rivalry in another session as well. We have things like family income. So how much money we have, whether we have it, whether we're struggling. It can have a massive impact on the way that children behave. But I just want to point out that it does not mean that for your children to be happy, you need to have lots of money. That's not what I'm referring to when I talk about family income. It's simply about being able to meet the needs of your children, the basic needs like having shelter, having some toys to play with, having food, having a nice bed to sleep on, not being homeless or lacking food in the house. So that's what we mean by being able to meet basic needs. That's what children need. They don't need to have lots of luxurious things and go on luxurious holidays. No, it's not to say that that's not important, but it's not what we're referring to. So family income can have an impact on the way that our children behave. You can have things like extended members of the family, like aunties and uncles, influencing the way that your children behave. I remember there was a time where my son decided to start copying that style where they wear their pants down and you can see their boxers. Well, I wasn't having none of that. So I was like, I looked at him when he was doing it and I was like, no, that's not happening. He quickly smiled and put it up because he was just joking. But he did say to me, well, Uncle so-and-so dresses like that. And I was like, yeah, well, you're not Uncle so-and-so's child, are you? So that was the end of that. But it's a really good example of how, modeling is playing a part in the way that our children behave through aunties and uncles. They can have an influence. But on the positive side, aunties and uncles, grandparents can be really good babysitters. So that's a really good way to look at extended members of the family. Moving on to parenting style. Now, there was research that was done back in the 60s by a lady called Diane Bumrind, an American clinical psychologist. She basically came up with 4 different parenting styles, and these are the way that we parent our children. The parenting styles are, we have authoritative, we have permissive, we have uninvolved or neglectful, we have authoritarian. Authoritarian is when basically the parents are in control. What they say go. Children don't have a say. Do as you're told. The parents are the boss. It's a very controlling environment, and children, children's opinion doesn't count. You do as you're told. That's basically that kind of environment. What I say goes, basically. Permissive is the opposite. Permissive is when basically you're afraid of confrontation. You are so loving and nurturing, but you're over the top. You don't put any boundaries. You can you're like, oh, can you do this? Can you stop? Have you ever heard that from a parent? Please stop. Just behave yourself. So you're kind of scared of confrontation, so you let your children get away with some things. You don't put a lot of boundaries in place, or you don't follow through with your rules that you may have in the house. That's permissive. So you just permit anything to just go. Uninvolved and neglectful, that is when you're basically not involved. It's the total opposite. You're there, you're present physically, but you're absent emotionally, so you don't care about what's going on with actually that's not the right term, but because there could be lots of reasons why you're not involved, but it's when you are less involved in your child's development, growing. You don't make yourself available emotionally. You just let whatever go. There's no rules in the house. They can do whatever they want, come back whenever they want. So that's neglectful. You don't really meet their needs. You don't take care. You just let them run around and do whatever they want. There's no rules in the house. But authoritative is when children can have a say, their opinion counts. There are rules, there are boundaries. So there is some control, but you are flexible. You understand, that children, they do have an opinion. So you take their opinion into consideration. So you talk about things. So that is authoritative. Now, I know what you're thinking. Which one of these is the best style of parenting? To be honest, I don't think there is a parent who only parents one way. I think we can all be flexible here and there. I know when my children were younger, I was more authoritarian than anything. So I was very controlling. I was very much what I say go, shut up, do as you're told, very disciplinary. So that was pretty much how I did it. But deep down inside, I wasn't very happy with that kind of style of parenting. I guess I was doing it because that was what I knew. That's what I thought was the way you're supposed to parent. But as I learned more and more, I became more flexible. So there's been times when I've been permissive, you know. You come from work, you're tired, and the last thing you want to do is to be shouting and say, so you're like, whatever. And my daughter sometimes takes advantage of that. She'll be like, Mom, can I do this? Yeah, whatever. So she takes advantage, you know, she knows when I'm like, can't be bothered, and then she takes advantage of that. So sometimes I've been permissive, but I would say now I am more authoritative. I am more involved. I do listen. I do take their thoughts into consideration. What I'm interested to know is, what style of parenting would you say you're more like? I'd appreciate your comments below on what style of parenting that you are currently using. And the best thing about this is, you know, whichever method of parenting you're currently using, this is about learning. So if you think you're more authoritarian, this is an opportunity to learn. Now you're learning, oh, maybe that is it working? The question to ask is the method, is the style that I'm currently using, is it working? Is it helping my children to grow, flourish, and become the best version of themselves when they get older? Is it helping them build their characteristics? So that's usually kind of a way, you know, to use to judge whether, you know, the style of parenting you're using is working for you. And as I say, no one uses just one method. People tend to kind of slip in and out of others as well. I would probably say that neglectful or uninvolved is probably the one that would not be so good, because if you're neglecting your children, not really being involved emotionally or physically, then that can impact on who they will end up growing up becoming. Well, I hope you found this really helpful and useful. And if you have, subscribe to this channel, keep watching, keep sharing this with other parents so that they can learn what we are learning together. And also press like, comment anything that you want to comment. I love reading comments, so please share your comments. And keep in touch with me on Twitter, keep in touch with me on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.